The year is 636 AD. On a dusty plain beside the Yarmouk River, 40,000 Muslim warriors face an army 3 times their size. The Byzantine Empire, successor to Rome itself, has sent its mightiest force to crush the upstart Arabs. But leading the Muslim cavalry sits a man who has never tasted defeat. A man who once fought against Islam with such ferocity that he nearly destroyed it. A man whom the Prophet Muhammad himself named Saif Allah, the sword of God. This is the story of Khalid ibn al-Walid, the greatest military commander you have probably never heard of. Born into wealth and privilege in the heart of pagan Mecca, he became Islam's most feared enemy. Then, in a dramatic transformation, he became its most brilliant defender. Over a decade of relentless campaigns, he conquered the Arabian Peninsula, shattered the Persian Empire, and brought Byzantium to its knees. He fought in over 100 battles and lost none. From the sands of Arabia to the ancient cities of Mesopotamia, from the deserts of Syria to the gates of Damascus, Khalid reshaped the ancient world. His tactical innovations would influence military strategy for centuries. His conquests opened 3 continents to a new civilization. Yet, at the height of his power, he was stripped of command by his own caliph, dying in obscurity far from the battlefield he loved. This is a story of genius and faith, of conquest and humility, of a warrior whose sword carved out an empire, but who submitted entirely to divine will. Join us as we explore how one man's military brilliance changed the course of human history forever. If you find this documentary useful and informative, please like and subscribe to Unleash Facts to support our work in bringing history to life. The Arabia of 590 AD was a land of tribes, trade routes, and ancient gods. The Arabian Peninsula stood at the crossroads of 3 great civilizations: Byzantine Rome, Sassanid Persia, and Christian Ethiopia. For centuries, these empires had used Arab tribes as buffers and proxies in their endless conflicts. The city of Mecca, nestled among barren mountains, had grown wealthy from pilgrimage traffic and caravan trade. Its prosperity rested on the Kaaba, an ancient shrine housing hundreds of tribal idols. Into this world, Khalid ibn al-Walid was born around 592 AD. His father was al-Walid ibn al-Mughira, chief of the Banu Makhzum clan. The Banu Makhzum were the aristocratic elite of the Quraysh tribe which controlled Mecca. They were known throughout Arabia as master horsemen and wealthy merchants. Al-Walid himself was one of the wealthiest and most respected men in Mecca. He served as an arbitrator in disputes, a position requiring both wisdom and authority. Young Khalid grew up immersed in the martial culture of his clan. Arabian warfare valued individual prowess, lightning raids, and superior horsemanship above all else. From childhood, Khalid trained with every weapon of his era: the sword, the lance, the bow. He learned to break and train wild colts, becoming one of the finest horsemen in Arabia. Standing over 6 feet tall, with broad shoulders and an athletic build, he cut an imposing figure. But Khalid's world was about to be shattered. In 610 AD, a 40-year-old Meccan merchant named Muhammad began preaching a revolutionary message. He proclaimed that there was only one God, that idolatry was false, and that all people were equal before their creator. This message threatened everything the Quraysh held dear: their economic dominance, their religious authority, their social hierarchy. The Banu Makhzum, Khalid's clan, became the most ardent opponents of this new faith called Islam. For over a decade, the Meccans persecuted Muhammad and his followers. They boycotted them economically, tortured the weak among them, and eventually forced many to flee to Abyssinia. In 622 AD, Muhammad and his closest followers escaped to the city of Yathrib, later known as Medina. This migration, the Hijra, marked the beginning of the Islamic calendar, but it also marked the beginning of open warfare between Mecca and the Muslim community. Khalid, now 30 years old, had become one of Mecca's leading military commanders. He watched with concern as this ragtag group of religious zealots began winning improbable victories. At the Battle of Badr in 624 AD, 300 Muslims defeated 1,000 Meccans. The defeat shocked Mecca to its core. The Quraysh had never imagined that these exiles could threaten their military supremacy. Now, the stage was set for Khalid's entrance into history. The Meccans began planning their revenge, assembling the largest army they had ever fielded. 3,000 warriors would march to Medina to crush the Muslims once and for all, and leading the cavalry would be Khalid ibn al-Walid. What happened next would reveal the military genius that would later conquer empires. The year 625 AD dawned with Mecca thirsting for vengeance. Abu Sufyan, the Quraysh leader, assembled 3,000 infantry, 700 armored warriors, and 200 cavalry. They brought 3,000 camels and a determination to erase the humiliation of Badr. Among the Meccan forces, 15 women accompanied the army to sing war songs and inspire the fighters. Leading them was Hind bint Utbah, whose father and brother had died at Badr. Muhammad learned of the Meccan advance and consulted with his companions in Medina. The Muslim force numbered only 1,000 men with minimal cavalry. They took positions on the slopes of Mount Uhud, just north of Medina. Muhammad positioned 50 archers on a rocky hill to protect the army's flank. He gave them strict orders never to abandon their position, regardless of how the battle unfolded. The battle began with the customary single combat between champions. The Muslims won these individual duels, emboldening their forces and dismaying the Meccans. When the general engagement began, the Muslim infantry pushed forward with fierce determination. The Meccan center began to buckle under the assault. Abu Sufyan's infantry started to retreat, and victory seemed within Muslim grasp. But Khalid ibn al-Walid was watching from the Meccan right flank. He commanded the cavalry with keen tactical awareness, waiting for his moment. When he saw the Muslim archers abandon their hilltop position to join the looting of the Meccan camp, he struck. Leading 200 horsemen in a wide flanking maneuver, Khalid swept around the Muslim left. The archers who had remained at their posts were quickly overrun. Now the Muslims found themselves attacked from behind. Confusion turned to panic as Khalid's cavalry carved through their ranks. Muhammad himself was wounded, struck in the face by a stone, and losing 2 teeth. A rumor spread that the Prophet had been killed, further demoralizing the Muslim forces. The Meccans, seeing their enemies in disarray, rallied and launched a devastating counterattack. Khalid's tactical genius had transformed certain defeat into stunning victory. 70 Muslims lay dead, including Hamza, the Prophet's beloved uncle. Hind bint Utbah mutilated Hamza's corpse in her grief and rage over her lost family members. The Muslims retreated to Medina, bloodied and shaken, but not destroyed. For Khalid, the Battle of Uhud demonstrated his superior understanding of cavalry tactics and battlefield awareness. The victory at Uhud elevated Khalid's status in Mecca even higher. He had accomplished what seemed impossible, defeating Muhammad in open combat. Yet despite this triumph, the Quraysh failed to follow up their victory. They did not press their advantage and besiege Medina when the Muslims were vulnerable. This strategic failure would prove costly in the years ahead. In 627 AD, the Quraysh made one final attempt to destroy Islam. They assembled a coalition of 10,000 warriors and marched on Medina. But Muhammad, on the advice of a Persian convert, ordered a defensive trench dug around the exposed parts of the city. The Arabian cavalry, including Khalid's forces, proved ineffective against this Persian innovation. After a month-long siege in harsh conditions, the coalition fragmented and retreated. The failed siege of Medina marked a turning point. The Muslims had survived the mightiest army Arabia could field. Muhammad's diplomatic skills began winning over tribes that had previously opposed him. In 628 AD, he negotiated the Treaty of Hudaybiyah with the Meccans. The 10-year truce allowed Muslims to make pilgrimage to Mecca and granted them legitimacy as a political entity. Khalid watched these developments with growing unease. The warrior in him recognized that the military tide had turned against the Quraysh. The strategist in him saw that Islam was gaining strength while Mecca was weakening, and perhaps something deeper stirred within him. The courage and discipline of the Muslim warriors, even in defeat, had made an impression on his martial soul. The Treaty of Hudaybiyah had an unintended consequence that would change Khalid's life forever. With peace established, Arabs from all backgrounds could now approach Muhammad without fear of Meccan retaliation. They could listen to his message, observe his character, and make their own judgments about Islam. Among those who began to reconsider their opposition was Khalid ibn al-Walid. He was approximately 36 years old, at the peak of his powers, yet fighting for a cause he no longer believed in. In 629 AD, Khalid made a momentous decision. He traveled to Medina along with two other prominent Quraysh leaders, Amr ibn al-As and Uthman ibn Talha. The three men approached Muhammad and declared their acceptance of Islam. Muhammad welcomed them warmly, recognizing in Khalid a military talent of extraordinary caliber. According to tradition, the Prophet said, "I always knew you possessed intelligence, and I hoped you would use your wisdom for Islam." Khalid's conversion sent shockwaves through both the Muslim and Meccan communities. The man who had inflicted Islam's worst battlefield defeat had now joined their ranks. For the Quraysh, it was a devastating loss of one of their most capable commanders. For the Muslims, it was the acquisition of a military genius who would prove invaluable in the years ahead. Muhammad immediately appointed Khalid as a commander in the Muslim army and began deploying him on critical missions. Khalid's first major test as a Muslim commander came swiftly. In 629 AD, the Ghassanids, Byzantine allied Christian Arabs, killed a Muslim envoy in their territory. Muhammad assembled an army of 3,000 men to punish this violation of diplomatic immunity. He appointed three commanders in succession: Zayd ibn Haritha, Jafar ibn Abi Talib, and Abdullah ibn Rawaha. The army marched north toward the village of Muta in what is now Jordan. What the Muslims encountered there would test even Khalid's considerable abilities. The Ghassanid forces had been reinforced by a Byzantine imperial army. Estimates suggest the Muslims faced between 10,000 and 20,000 enemies, though some sources claim even higher numbers. The Muslim commanders recognized they were catastrophically outnumbered, but refused to retreat without a fight. Their determination exemplified the fearless faith that so impressed Khalid at Uhud. The Battle of Muta began with the Muslim commanders leading from the front. Zayd ibn Haritha charged into the thick of combat and was killed. Jafar seized the banner and fought heroically until he too fell, his body bearing dozens of wounds. Abdullah ibn Rawaha took command and immediately met the same fate. The Muslims found themselves leaderless, surrounded, and facing annihilation. A veteran warrior, Thabit ibn al-Arqam, grabbed the fallen banner. He pushed through the chaos to Khalid and thrust the standard into his hands. Khalid initially refused, feeling that Thabit's longer service to Islam made him more worthy, but Thabit insisted, and the army agreed that Khalid's superior military expertise was desperately needed. Khalid accepted command of an army on the verge of destruction. What happened next revealed the tactical genius that would make Khalid legendary. He immediately recognized that victory was impossible and survival improbable. The only hope lay in an organized retreat, but the Byzantines and Ghassanids completely surrounded his position. Any conventional withdrawal would become a massacre as the cavalry ran down fleeing infantry. Khalid needed to convince his enemies that the Muslim force was stronger than it appeared. That night, Khalid implemented an audacious deception. He reorganized his army's formation, moving troops from the rear to the wings. He ordered soldiers to raise clouds of dust behind the lines to simulate reinforcements arriving. When dawn broke, he launched probing attacks from different directions. The Byzantine commanders, seeing new banners and fresh dust clouds, believed that Muslim reinforcements had arrived during the night. Khalid fought with extraordinary personal valor to sell the deception. According to tradition, he broke 9 swords in the intense fighting that day. His hands were so injured from gripping shattered weapons that he could barely hold a blade. Yet he continued to lead charges, rallying his men and striking fear into his enemies. The Byzantines, uncertain of Muslim numbers and suffering casualties from the fierce resistance, hesitated to press their advantage. Khalid exploited the Byzantine hesitation with masterful precision. He ordered a fighting withdrawal, moving his forces back while maintaining formation. Every time the enemy pushed forward, Muslim cavalry would counterattack just enough to check their advance. Khalid personally led many of these desperate rearguard actions. The retreat continued for days across the harsh Syrian desert. Back in Medina, Muhammad had been following the battle through divine revelation. He informed his companions of the deaths of the 3 commanders, describing each martyrdom as it occurred. Then he spoke words that would echo through history. "Then the banner was taken by one of God's swords," Muhammad said. From that moment, Khalid bore the title Saif Allah, Sword of God. The battered Muslim force finally reached safety, having preserved most of their army. What should have been a catastrophic defeat had become a strategic success. Khalid had saved 3,000 Muslim warriors from certain destruction. His brilliant tactical deception and fighting withdrawal established his reputation as a commander of the highest caliber. The Battle of Mu'tah demonstrated that this convert brought not just his sword to Islam, but his genius. The following year, 630 AD, brought the culmination of the Meccan Muslim conflict. Muhammad assembled an army of 10,000 men and marched on Mecca. The Quraysh, recognizing they could not resist such overwhelming force, negotiated a peaceful surrender. Khalid's clan, the Banu Makhzum, submitted along with the rest of Mecca. The city that had persecuted Muhammad for 13 years now accepted Islam almost without bloodshed. With Arabia's most powerful city under Muslim control, the faith spread rapidly across the peninsula. Tribal delegations arrived in Medina to declare their allegiance and accept Islam. By 632 AD, much of Arabia had nominally submitted to the Muslim state. Muhammad led one final pilgrimage to Mecca, known as the Farewell Pilgrimage. 3 months later, in June of 632 AD, the Prophet Muhammad died. His death precipitated the greatest crisis in early Islamic history. Across Arabia, tribes that had submitted to Muhammad now claimed their oaths died with him. Some reverted to their traditional religions, rejecting Islam as a personal loyalty to Muhammad rather than submission to God. Others followed charismatic leaders who claimed to be prophets in their own right. The most dangerous of these was Musaylima of the Banu Hanifa tribe in central Arabia. Abu Bakr, Muhammad's closest companion and father-in-law, was elected as the first caliph. He faced immediate challenges that threatened to tear apart everything Muhammad had built. Many urged compromise, suggesting that tribes who still prayed but refused to pay taxes should be tolerated. Abu Bakr rejected this approach, declaring that even if they withheld a single rope they had given to Muhammad, he would fight them. The Ridda Wars, the Wars of Apostasy, had begun. Abu Bakr divided his forces to face threats from multiple directions simultaneously. He kept one army to defend Medina against potential attacks. The remaining forces were organized into 11 mobile columns to strike at rebel tribes across Arabia. For the most critical mission, subduing the powerful tribes of Central Arabia and confronting the false prophets, Abu Bakr chose Khalid ibn al-Walid. It would prove to be one of history's most consequential military appointments. Khalid marched first against Tulayha, a skilled warrior who claimed prophethood among the Banu Asad tribe. Tulayha had assembled a formidable coalition of tribes at Buzaka in the Najd region. His forces outnumbered Khalid's army, and he enjoyed the advantage of fighting on familiar terrain. The false prophet's reputation as a warrior made him a rallying point for those opposed to Medina's authority. Khalid recognized that defeating Tulayha was essential to preventing wider rebellion. The Battle of Buzaka in 632 AD tested Khalid's forces severely. Tulayha had positioned his forces well and commanded capable tribal warriors. The fighting was fierce, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. At the critical moment, Khalid launched a cavalry charge that broke through Tulayha's center. The false prophet, seeing his forces crumbling, fled the battlefield and eventually sought refuge with the Byzantines. Khalid then turned his attention to another challenge in eastern Arabia. Malik ibn Nuwayra, a chieftain of the Banu Tamim, had stopped forwarding tax revenues to Medina. He had been appointed by Muhammad as a tax collector for his clan. After the Prophet's death, Malik withheld these funds, though the reasons remain historically disputed. Abu Bakr ordered Khalid to confront this rebellion and restore central authority. When Khalid's forces reached Malik's territory at Al-Buta, the situation was deeply ambiguous. According to some witnesses, including Abu Qatada, Malik's people called to prayer and observed Islamic rituals. Other reports suggest Malik made statements that questioned his loyalty to the new leadership. Historical sources differ sharply on whether Malik had truly apostatized or simply disputed political authority. The complexity of the situation would make what followed intensely controversial. Khalid ordered Malik's execution, believing him to be in rebellion against the Islamic State. The decision immediately sparked fierce debate among the Muslim leadership and companions. Umar ibn al-Khattab, the future caliph, was particularly outraged by the execution. Abu Qatada reportedly vowed never to fight under Khalid's command again after witnessing the incident. Umar pressed Abu Bakr to punish or dismiss Khalid for killing what he believed was a Muslim. Abu Bakr investigated the matter, but ultimately sided with Khalid's judgment. The Caliph paid blood money for Malik from the public treasury, acknowledging the ambiguity of the case. He famously defended Khalid by saying, "I will not sheathe a sword that God has drawn for his religion." Yet, the controversy would follow Khalid throughout his career, cited repeatedly by his critics. Modern historians recognize this as one of early Islam's most disputed and murky episodes. Khalid's most formidable challenge still awaited him at Yamamah. Musaylima, known to Muslims as the Liar, had declared himself a prophet among the powerful Banu Hanifa tribe. His territory was fertile, populous, and well defended by warrior traditions going back generations. Musaylima's followers numbered in the tens of thousands, making his movement the gravest threat to the Islamic State. He had even attempted to share prophethood with Muhammad, sending letters proposing they divide Arabia between them. Musaylima proved to be a more capable military commander than Tulayha. He had fortified the region of Yamama and trained his forces in coordinated tactics. When Khalid's army approached in December of 632 AD, Musaylima met them with a well-organized force. The Battle of Yamama would become the bloodiest engagement of the Ridda Wars. It would test Islamic resolve as never before. The initial Muslim assault made little progress against Musaylima's defensive positions. The Banu Hanifa warriors fought with religious fervor equal to that of the Muslims. They believed in Musaylima's prophethood as deeply as Muslims believed in Muhammad's. The fighting devolved into brutal hand-to-hand combat, with catastrophic casualties on both sides. Many of Muhammad's original companions fell in the carnage, including dozens who had memorized the entire Quran. Musailima's forces drove the Muslims back to their camp. For a moment, it seemed the Islamic State might suffer its first major military defeat. But Khalid rallied his troops with inspirational leadership and tactical adjustments. He reorganized his forces, placing his most veteran warriors at the front. Then he launched a devastating counterattack that pushed Musailima's forces back toward their fortified garden. The battle's climax occurred in the enclosed space of the Garden of Death. Musailima's warriors made their final stand behind the garden walls. A Muslim warrior named Bara ibn Malik called for volunteers to throw him over the wall. Once inside, he fought his way to the gate and opened it from within. The Muslims poured into the garden, and in the vicious melee that followed, Musailima was killed. The death toll at Yamama shocked the entire Muslim community. Nearly 1,200 Muslims died, including many senior companions of the Prophet. The Banu Hanifa suffered even more catastrophic losses, with over 10,000 killed. The battle was so traumatic that Abu Bakr reportedly feared for Islam's survival. Yet Khalid had secured victory against the most dangerous threat the young Islamic State had faced. With Musailima dead and the Ridda Wars concluded, Arabia was finally unified under a single authority. Never before in its history had the Arabian Peninsula been united under one government. The tribal system that had dominated for centuries had been replaced by a centralized state bound by religious ideology. This unification gave Abu Bakr the resources and manpower to pursue a more ambitious objective. The time had come to carry the faith beyond Arabia's borders. In 633 AD, Abu Bakr ordered the invasion of Mesopotamia, then part of the mighty Sassanid Persian Empire. Khalid received command of this expedition, along with instructions to subdue the Persian garrisons along the Euphrates. The Sassanids had ruled Mesopotamia for 4 centuries, and their military power had dominated the region. Few believed that Arab tribesmen could challenge an empire that had fought Rome to a standstill for generations. Yet within a year, Khalid would shatter Persian power in Mesopotamia. Khalid's Iraqi campaign demonstrated his versatility as a commander. He captured the Persian-held city of Hira through a combination of assault and negotiation. At the Battle of Walaja, he executed a double envelopment that destroyed a Persian army. At Ulay, he won such a devastating victory that the battlefield canal ran red with blood. The Persian forces, unprepared for the speed and ferocity of Arab mobile warfare, collapsed before him. By the spring of 634 AD, Khalid controlled most of Lower Mesopotamia. The Sassanid Empire, already weakened by decades of war with Byzantium, could not effectively respond. Khalid had captured vital agricultural regions and wealthy cities. Revenue from these conquests began flowing to Medina, funding further expansion. The impossible had become reality. Arab raiders had toppled one of the world's great empires in months. But Abu Bakr's attention had shifted to an even more audacious target. Muslim forces had invaded Byzantine Syria, capturing several cities, but now faced fierce resistance. The Byzantine Emperor Heraclius, the brilliant commander who had defeated Persia, was assembling a massive army. Abu Bakr made a fateful decision. He would transfer Khalid from Iraq to Syria. The sword of God would be pointed at the heart of the Christian Roman Empire. In May of 634 AD, Khalid received his orders. He was to march across the Syrian desert with 5,000 cavalry to reinforce the Muslim armies in Syria. This desert crossing was considered impassable by conventional armies, lacking water sources and vegetation. Most commanders would have marched north along the Euphrates before turning west. But Khalid chose the direct route, knowing that speed was essential and surprise was worth any risk. Khalid recruited Christian Arab guides who knew the desert secrets. He brought herds of camels, which were slaughtered at intervals for their stomach water. The army marched at night to avoid the scorching heat and navigated by stars. After 5 days of grueling travel, they emerged in Syria behind the Byzantine defensive lines. The desert crossing entered military legend as one of history's great forced marches. Khalid's arrival in Syria transformed the strategic situation overnight. The Muslim forces, divided into separate corps across the region, now had a unifying commander. His reputation preceded him, and the Byzantine commanders scrambled to respond to this new threat. Khalid immediately began coordinating the scattered Muslim armies for a concentrated strike. The target he selected was the Byzantine garrison at Ajnadain, south of Jerusalem. In July of 634 AD, the two armies met near Ajnadain. The Byzantines fielded a significantly larger force, well-equipped and experienced. They enjoyed the advantage of heavy cavalry and armored infantry. Byzantine military doctrine had been refined over centuries of warfare against Persia and barbarian invasions. Yet Khalid had studied their methods at Mu'tah and understood both their strengths and weaknesses. Khalid employed psychological warfare before the battle even began. He challenged Byzantine officers to single combat, where his warriors consistently prevailed. This demoralized the Byzantine rank and file while emboldening the Muslim forces. When the general engagement began, Khalid had positioned his cavalry to exploit gaps in the Byzantine line. He personally led the decisive cavalry charge that shattered the Byzantine center. The Battle of Ajnadain ended in complete Muslim victory. Byzantine losses were catastrophic, with estimates suggesting tens of thousands killed or captured. The road to Palestine lay open, and several cities surrendered without resistance. Damascus, Syria's greatest city and a Byzantine stronghold for centuries, now stood isolated. The impossible was becoming routine. Khalid's forces were dismantling Byzantine power in the Levant. While Khalid was revolutionizing warfare in Syria, Abu Bakr lay dying in Medina. In August of 634 AD, the first caliph passed away after only 2 years in office. He had guided the Islamic State through its most perilous crisis and launched the Age of Conquest. On his deathbed, Abu Bakr nominated Umar ibn al-Khattab as his successor. Umar, the stern and uncompromising companion of Muhammad, would prove to be one of history's great administrators. Umar's accession would have profound consequences for Khalid. The new caliph had never forgiven Khalid for the execution of Malik ibn Nuwayra. He harbored concerns about Khalid's growing fame and the cult of personality developing around him. Umar feared that soldiers might begin attributing victories to Khalid rather than to divine assistance. Within weeks of becoming caliph, Umar made a controversial decision. In one of his first acts as caliph, Umar dismissed Khalid from supreme command. Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah, renowned for his piety and humility, was appointed as overall commander in Syria. Khalid was to serve under Abu Ubaidah as a subordinate general. The letter containing this demotion reached Syria as Khalid was besieging Damascus. By the time the official announcement was made, Damascus had already fallen. Khalid's response to his demotion revealed the depth of his character. Many urged him to refuse the order, arguing that the army would support him in rebellion. He commanded the finest military force in the Islamic world and enjoyed unquestioned loyalty from his troops. A lesser man might have seized power and split the young Islamic State in two. Instead, Khalid submitted without protest, saying that he served Islam, not his own ambitions. Abu Ubaidah, displaying wisdom equal to his piety, kept Khalid as his chief tactical advisor. He recognized that while he understood administration and law, Khalid understood warfare. In practice, Khalid continued to command in all but title, When battle approached, Abu Ubaidah deferred to Khalid's superior military judgment. This arrangement would prove crucial in the great confrontation that was approaching. Emperor Heraclius watched these developments with growing alarm. The man who had defeated Persia and saved the Byzantine Empire now faced its gravest crisis. Province after province was falling to these Arab invaders. Heraclius assembled the largest army he could muster, drawing troops from across his empire. He would stake everything on one massive counteroffensive to drive the Muslims from Syria. In response to the Byzantine buildup, Khalid made a strategic decision. He ordered all Muslim forces in Syria to withdraw to a single concentration point. The location he selected was the valley of the Yarmouk River, south of the Sea of Galilee. This withdrawal meant temporarily abandoning cities the Muslims had captured, including Damascus. But Khalid understood that defeating Heraclius's army was more important than holding cities. The stage was now set for the most significant battle of the Islamic conquests. At Yarmouk, the fate of 3 continents would be decided. The Byzantine Empire, heir to Rome, would face warriors from the Arabian desert. Classical civilization would confront a new religious movement, and Khalid ibn al-Walid would fight the greatest battle of his extraordinary career. In August of 636 AD, 2 civilizations faced each other at Yarmouk. The Byzantine army numbered perhaps 80,000 to 100,000 men. They included Greek heavy infantry, Armenian archers, Arab Christian light cavalry, and Slavic warriors. The Muslim force counted approximately 40,000 soldiers, mostly light cavalry and mobile infantry. The Byzantines had every material advantage: numbers, equipment, supply lines, and defensive terrain. Heraclius himself remained at Antioch, too ill to take the field personally. He appointed 2 Armenian generals, Theodore and Veyhan, as co-commanders. This divided command would prove disastrous as the generals bickered over strategy. The Byzantine force also suffered from ethnic tensions between its diverse contingents. The Arab Christian auxiliaries were largely sidelined despite their knowledge of the terrain and enemy. Khalid, though officially subordinate to Abu Ubaidah, held operational command. He organized his forces into tactical flexibility that could respond to threats from any direction. His army consisted of 36 infantry regiments and 4 cavalry regiments. Most critically, he created a mobile guard, elite cavalry held in reserve to strike wherever needed. This mobile guard would prove to be the decisive factor in the coming battle. The battle began on August 15th and would rage for 6 days. The Byzantines initially adopted a cautious strategy, probing Muslim positions with limited attacks. They hoped to wear down the Arabs through attrition before launching a decisive blow. Khalid countered by launching his own cavalry raids to disrupt Byzantine formations. The first 3 days saw intense but inconclusive fighting across the entire front. On the 4th day, the Byzantines achieved a significant breakthrough. A massive assault by Slavic and Armenian contingents pushed back the Muslim right wing. For a moment, it seemed the Byzantine numbers would overwhelm Muslim resistance, but Khalid had been waiting for precisely this moment. He unleashed his mobile guard in a devastating flanking attack against the Byzantine left. Khalid's cavalry struck with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel. They hit the Byzantine left from multiple angles simultaneously. The heavily armored Byzantine cavalry found themselves unable to maneuver against the swift Arab horsemen. Before the Byzantine commanders could respond, their left wing had collapsed entirely. Khalid then wheeled his mobile guard to strike at other parts of the Byzantine line. Throughout the battle, Khalid demonstrated masterful use of cavalry tactics. He moved his mobile guard rapidly from crisis point to crisis point across the battlefield. Wherever the Byzantine attack seemed strongest, Khalid's cavalry would suddenly appear. The Byzantine commanders, unable to predict where he would strike next, found themselves constantly reacting. This kept them off balance and prevented them from exploiting their numerical superiority. By the fifth day, the Byzantine commanders recognized they could not achieve a breakthrough. Vahan called for a truce, hoping to reorganize his demoralized forces. Khalid refused, sensing that the enemy's will was breaking. That night, he implemented the final phase of his battle plan. He sent cavalry detachments to seize the only crossing points over the steep ravines surrounding the battlefield. On the sixth day, August 20th, Khalid launched his decisive assault. The Muslim forces attacked across the entire front with coordinated fury. The Byzantine army, exhausted from 6 days of battle, began to buckle. When their line finally broke, retreat turned into rout. Thousands of Byzantine soldiers found themselves trapped between the Muslim cavalry and the ravines behind them. The carnage that followed was horrific. Byzantine soldiers fell to their deaths over the cliffs or were cut down trying to cross the narrow bridge. Others drowned attempting to swim the Yarmouk River in their armor. Byzantine casualties approached 40,000 men, nearly half their entire army. Muslim losses were approximately 4,000, a ratio that testified to Khalid's tactical supremacy. The Battle of Yarmouk destroyed Byzantine power in Syria forever. Emperor Heraclius, upon learning of the disaster, reportedly bid farewell to Syria from Antioch. "Peace be with you, O Syria," he said. "What a beautiful land you will be for the enemy." Within months, Damascus, Jerusalem, and all of Syria fell under Muslim control. The Byzantine Empire would never recover these provinces. Khalid's victory at Yarmouk ranks among history's most decisive battles. It opened 3 continents to Islamic civilization: Asia, Africa, and eventually Europe. The Byzantine Empire, which had dominated the Eastern Mediterranean for centuries, was reduced to Anatolia and the Balkans. The Sassanid Persian Empire, already reeling from defeats in Mesopotamia, would completely collapse within a decade. One battle had fundamentally altered the balance of world power. The tactical innovations Khalid displayed at Yarmouk would influence military theory for centuries. His use of a mobile reserve force became standard doctrine in armies across the world. His coordination of light cavalry with infantry demonstrated the effectiveness of combined arms tactics. His ability to exploit terrain features and enemy command failures set standards for battlefield awareness. Military historians would study Yarmouk alongside Cannae and Austerlitz as masterpieces of tactical art, but at the moment of his greatest triumph, Khalid's career began its decline. Caliph Umar, learning of the victory, grew even more concerned about Khalid's reputation. Stories circulated of soldiers attributing victory to Khalid rather than to God. Some troops reportedly said they would be undefeated as long as Khalid commanded them. Umar viewed such sentiments as dangerous idolatry that threatened the faith's foundations. In 638 AD, at the zenith of his military fame, Khalid was dismissed from all command. Caliph Umar's letter was blunt. Khalid was to serve as an ordinary soldier without special rank. The official reason given was to demonstrate that victory came from God, not from any individual commander. Some sources suggest Umar also questioned Khalid's financial dealings, though no formal charges were proven. For a man who had never lost a battle, who had reshaped the map of the known world, this was a crushing blow. Khalid's response again demonstrated his submission to religious authority over personal ambition. Though many officers urged him to resist, he accepted the demotion without protest. He reportedly stated that he fought for Islam's cause, not for titles or recognition. Abu Ubaidah, embarrassed by Umar's harsh treatment, tried to soften the dismissal's impact. But Khalid increasingly withdrew from public life, his active military career essentially over. The Muslim conquests continued without Khalid, though perhaps not with the same brilliance. Syria was completely subdued, with Jerusalem surrendering to Umar personally in 637 AD. Egypt fell to Muslim forces under Amr ibn al-As between 639 and 642 AD. In the east, the Sassanid Empire collapsed entirely after decisive defeats at Qadisiyah and Nihavand. Within 20 years of Muhammad's death, the Islamic Empire stretched from Libya to Central Asia. Khalid lived his final years in relative obscurity in the Syrian city of Homs. He spent his time in worship, reflection, and teaching military tactics to young soldiers. According to tradition, he expressed disappointment at dying in bed rather than on the battlefield. "I fought in so many battles seeking martyrdom," he reportedly said, "and yet here I am dying like an old camel." In 642 AD, around 50 years old, Khalid ibn al-Walid passed away. The controversy over his dismissal continued long after his death. Sunni tradition generally honors Khalid as a heroic figure whose contributions were essential to Islam's survival. Shia tradition views him more critically, particularly regarding the execution of Malik ibn Nuwayra. The Umar-Khalid dynamic raises questions about leadership, fame, and the proper role of military commanders in religious states. Was Umar right to fear that Khalid's fame would corrupt the faithful's reliance on God? Khalid's legacy as a military commander remains secure regardless of theological controversies. He fought in over 100 battles and lost none. He defeated two world empires, the Byzantine and the Sassanid, often against overwhelming numerical odds. He pioneered tactics that would become standard in cavalry warfare for centuries. His march across the Syrian desert ranks among military history's great forced marches. Modern military analysts recognize Khalid's contributions to the art of war. He understood the importance of mobility, using light cavalry to offset numerical inferiority. He excelled at gathering intelligence and using psychological warfare to demoralize opponents. His ability to conduct fighting withdrawals, as at Mu'tah, demonstrated defensive mastery equal to his offensive brilliance. He showed how a smaller, motivated force with superior leadership could defeat larger, better-equipped armies. The Islamic conquests Khalid spearheaded had consequences that echo to the present day. Syria, Palestine, Egypt, and Mesopotamia became permanently part of the Islamic world. The Arabic language and Islamic culture spread across territories once dominated by Greek and Persian civilization. The Byzantine Empire, shorn of its wealthiest provinces, declined into a shadow of its former glory. The Sassanid Empire vanished entirely, with Zoroastrianism nearly disappearing from its Persian homeland. Khalid's campaigns also demonstrated how religious ideology could motivate and unify previously fragmented peoples. The Arab tribes that had spent centuries fighting each other became an unstoppable force when united by faith. This pattern would repeat throughout history with other ideologically motivated movements. The combination of religious fervor, skilled leadership, and tactical innovation proved devastating to established powers. Khalid showed that civilizations' established empires were vulnerable to determined challenges with superior morale. Yet Khalid's story also illustrates the tension between military excellence and religious authority. His dismissal by Umar represents a crucial moment in Islamic political thought. It established the principle that even the most successful commander remained subordinate to religious leadership. No military figure, regardless of accomplishments, could claim authority independent of the caliph. This precedent influenced Islamic political structures for centuries. The mosque built over Khalid's tomb in Homs became a pilgrimage site for Muslims seeking inspiration. His title, Saif Allah, remains one of Islam's most honored epithets. Parents across the Muslim world name their sons Khalid, hoping they will embody his courage and faith. The phrase, "the sword of God," appears in Islamic art, literature, and religious discourse. Khalid's memory serves as a model of military prowess combined with religious devotion. Western military historians increasingly recognize Khalid's place among history's greatest commanders. His tactical innovations compare favorably with those of Alexander, Hannibal, or Napoleon. His strategic vision in unifying Arabia and then conquering two empires demonstrates rare genius. Yet unlike many great conquerors, Khalid never ruled the territories he conquered. He remained a servant of his faith, subordinating personal ambition to religious duty. Khalid's life raises profound questions about leadership, faith, and historical memory. How should societies balance military necessity with religious or ethical concerns? What happens when military genius conflicts with political leadership? Can individual brilliance change history's course, or do broader forces determine outcomes? These questions resonate beyond Islamic history into universal concerns about power and principle. The speed and totality of Khalid's conquests also prompt reflection on why established powers fell so suddenly. Were the Byzantine and Sassanid empires already hollow, awaiting a determined push? Did their populations welcome Arab rule as relief from oppressive imperial administration? Or did Khalid's military genius simply overwhelm forces already exhausted by mutual warfare? Historians continue debating whether the conquests resulted from Muslim strength or imperial weakness. The story of Khalid ibn al-Walid transcends military history to touch something deeper about human nature. Here was a man born to privilege who chose a path of constant danger. He fought against Islam with ferocity, then fought for it with equal intensity. He conquered empires, but accepted demotion without rebellion. He died in obscurity, content that he had served something greater than himself. Khalid's transformation from Islam's deadliest enemy to its greatest champion illustrates the power of conviction over conditioning. His tactical brilliance at battles from Uhud to Yarmouk demonstrates that individual genius matters even in mass conflicts. His submission to authority, despite his unmatched military success, shows that principle can triumph over ambition. And his enduring legacy proves that historical memory preserves those who serve causes larger than themselves. The world Khalid helped create transformed human civilization in ways still evident 14 centuries later. The Islamic civilization that spread from Arabia to Spain and Central Asia shaped art, science, philosophy, and politics. Cities from Damascus to Baghdad flourished as centers of learning during medieval Islam's golden age. The religious and cultural borders Khalid's sword drew continue to define much of modern geopolitics. One man's military career cascaded into consequences that reshaped 3 continents. Modern students of strategy still study Khalid's campaigns for insights into mobile warfare and tactical flexibility. His ability to win despite inferior numbers offers lessons in leadership, morale, and psychological warfare. His integration of cavalry with infantry presaged modern combined arms doctrine. His understanding that wars are won by destroying enemy will, rather than just their armies, remains relevant. The Sword of God continues to teach warriors 1400 years after his death. Yet perhaps Khalid's greatest legacy is not military but spiritual. His story shows that transformation is possible, that past enmity need not determine future action. His submission to authority demonstrates that true strength includes the humility to serve. His acceptance of death in bed rather than battle illustrates that we do not control our ultimate destiny. Khalid ibn al-Walid lived and died as a servant, not a master, and that made him immortal. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history and learned something new, please like this video and subscribe to Unleash Facts. Your support helps us continue creating comprehensive historical documentaries that bring the past to life. Share this documentary with others who appreciate how individual courage and faith can reshape civilizations. History is not just dates and battles, but human stories that illuminate timeless truths about character, choice, and consequence. Thank you for joining us in exploring the extraordinary life of the Sword of God.